Welcome back. I'm the Dynasty Football Strategist. Today we start our 2024 Prospect Profiles series where we cover the 2024 rookie class. Today we're covering Marvin Harrison Jr. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvelous Marv, son of Colts Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison Sr. He was drafted in round 1, pick 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. He's 21 years old and is an early declare at 6'3", which is in the 79th percentile among college prospects, at 209 pounds, which is in the 69th percentile among college prospects, and possesses 9.5-inch hands, which is in the 55th percentile among college prospects. He did not do much in his freshman year behind JSN, Olave, and Garrett Wilson. However, he stepped up in a big way in his sophomore year, with 77 receptions for 1,263 yards and 14 touchdowns. In his junior year, he regressed slightly, but this was due to terrible quarterback play. He finished with 67 receptions for 1,211 yards and 14 touchdowns this year. The difference was having C.J. Stroud in his sophomore year versus Kyle McCord in his junior year. So, what do the industry leaders think? NFL.com's Lance Zierlein gives him a 6.83, which is a year 1 starter grade, and that's the second highest he's given in this class. CBS Sports' Dave Richard and Jordan Jadani rank him as the number 1 overall wide receiver and number 2 overall prospect with a 93.83 rating, which is an all-pro caliber prospect. But let's see what the film says about Marvin Harrison Jr. In this first clip, watch how he roasts his corner and then pulls away from the entire defense. In this second clip, they decide to match him up with a safety for whatever reason, and he vastly misestimates Harrison's speed. Watch as he roasts him the entire way down the field for an easy touchdown. Here we get another look, and watch how he stacks the safety and leaves him with no chance. Now we get a look at his ball skills, and watch how he contorts his body and adjusts for an underthrown ball. Watch as he does the same thing here and manages to escape the first tackle after the catch. In this next clip, watch as he effortlessly catches this ball and then sets himself up for run after catch. And getting another look here, look at the nasty juke move. But that's not his only talent. Look at his body control in these next clips. In this clip, watch as he stacks the Maryland corner while giving his quarterback enough space to throw on the sideline for him to make a nasty catch here. We gotta see that again. Let's check that replay. This is also a remarkable display of awareness as he gets both feet down and secures the ball through contact all the way through the catch. Watch here as he manages to keep his feet in bounds for a toe tap touchdown. More the same here with a nifty toe tap touchdown catch against Michigan State. Also note the way he sets him up with that nasty stutter step. And notice the body control as he turns away and shields the ball from the defender so he can't affect the catch. And here against Rutgers, he uses the same skill as he contorts his body to shield the ball from the defender again. He's also elite at contested catching. Watch as he manages to track down an underthrown ball against 2 defenders. As you see here, and you'll continue to see in multiple clips, it is his ball when it's in the air. It is no one else's. I mean, he even bobbles this underthrown ball, and he still comes down with it against 2 defenders. It's ridiculous. And here against star Michigan cornerback Will Johnson, he uses a mixture of contested catching and ball skills. Just look at this. Have you noticed a theme of underthrown balls leading to contested catches? Well, he comes down with yet another one against Purdue here. And I wanted you to get one more good look at this nasty slot fade against star cornerback Will Johnson. And now that you've seen his ball skills, route running, and contested catching, I want you to get a good look at his yards after catch skills. So he shakes the Purdue cornerback and then manages to scurry for a couple extra yards here on the sideline. And against Penn State here, he catches a drag route and sets up his block so he can remain untouched here. Getting another look at that catch against Purdue, Notice the agility for someone that's 6'3", 209 pounds. This is ridiculous stuff, guys. He could even get involved in end-arounds. Look against Michigan State here, how he sets up his blocks and then powers through the defender for a touchdown. And notice his build-up speed on a drag route against the Michigan defense to be able to pull away from his defender for a touchdown here. But if none of this was enough, look at these ridiculous catches against pass interference. And look at this insane catch against star cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan. He's getting tackled before he can make the catch. You get a better view from this replay here. Look at this stuff. This stuff is magnificent. And to conclude the film study, more of the same here against Wisconsin. So now that we've concluded our film session, let's look at some historical hit rates. So this is masterful work done by Peter Howard. Please give him a follow. So what he's done here is he's compiled by round how many players have hit top 5, 12, and top 24 fantasy seasons. So as you see in round 1, for instance, there were 78 wide receivers taken here in the sample size. Of those 78 in the first round, 16 had top 5 seasons, 27 had top 12 seasons, and 38 had top 24 seasons. And that equates to 20.51% had top 5, 34.62 had top 12, and 48.72 had top 24 seasons. So Marvin Harrison Jr. was not only picked in the first round, but he was picked 4th overall. That's incredibly high for a prospect. He is about as a sure thing as you can get in fantasy football, and in real life football. So what we can glean from this is that Marvin Harrison Jr. has an incredibly high likelihood of being an elite receiver just off the draft capital alone in that correlation. So looking at the historical hit rates here, it's incredibly likely that Marvin Harrison Jr. hits, and it's really likely that he has a top 24 season, reasonably likely that he has a top 12 season, and decently likely that he has a top 5 season in him. And he could be a recurring candidate here because he's incredibly talented. So looking at a few metrics here, Marvin Harrison Jr. averages 2.98 yards per route run, which among wide receiver prospects since 2019 is in the 93rd percentile. He also averages a 91.3 receiving grade, which is in the 94th percentile, an 89.5 receiving grade when lined up wide, which is in the 97th percentile, an 89.9 receiving grade when lined up in the slot, which is in the 94th percentile, an 89.9 receiving grade when lined up in the slot, which is in the 94th percentile, a 45.8% explosive play rate, which is in the 94th percentile, and a 94.5 receiving grade versus single coverage, which is in the 98th percentile. This guy is as elite as it gets in every single metric here. Now, looking at reception perception stats from Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, who please give him a follow. He tracks every route of some of these collegiate prospects, including Marvin Harrison Jr., and he gives you the percentage of routes in which they run and how successful each prospect is by route that they run. So, looking at Marvin Harrison's route percentage chart on the left, most of his routes are either corner routes, dig routes, or slant routes. He does do 9 routes, post routes, comebacks, and curls. He doesn't generally do out routes quite as much in screens and flats, but that could just be some of the scheme at Ohio State. But if you look at his percentage of successes by route, oh my goodness. He is green in every single one except post routes and comeback, which are both below average, but that's still an incredible route tree. This guy is a masterful technician at all 3 levels of the field, and you don't get route charts like this if you are not an elite prospect. And with that being said, he was the number 1 wide receiver, receiving a lot of double coverage. I believe it was 17% of his routes were double covered. This guy is an insane prospect and is successful in just about anything he does. So looking at some more stats for Marvin Harrison Jr., courtesy of Fantasy Life. Among the 24 class, his PFF receiving grade was 92.3, which was first in the class. His passer rating when targeted was 128.8, which was 10th in the class. His total receiving yards in his career was 2,474, which was third in the class. He finished with 28 total touchdowns, which was number 1 in the class. His yards per route run was 3.3 this year, which was number 2 in the class. His yards per reception was 17.2, which was number 7 in the class. And his targets per route run was 31%, which is third in the class. So one thing to note here is having a 31% targets per route run rate is an incredibly high percentage, and this is despite him being double teamed on about 17% of his snaps. This is elite company, and elite players earn high targets per route run percentages. Moving on to his projected role in the offense for the Cardinals. He projects to be primarily an X wide receiver. As you can see on the chart here, an X wide receiver generally lines by themselves on one side of the field, and they're going to line up on the line of scrimmage. This is because they should have the ability to beat press man coverage, which Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely does, as well as be able to not necessitate scheming so much to get them as open as other positions would be, which Marvin Harrison Jr. needs no assistance in that regard. They generally also project to be the number 1 target earner, just based on being the X wide receiver. But in this case, it's going to be because of that, but it's more so just because he's so much more talented than anyone else they're going to have. And he's going to be more talented than most wide receivers for that matter. He is going to be an elite player, and he's going to be connected to Kyler Murray, who, if you remember, back when DeAndre Hopkins first joined them, DeAndre Hopkins was a 1,500-yard wide receiver in the exact role that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have. Kyler Murray likes to lock on to his top receiver and pepper them with targets. And to be fair, Marvin Harrison Jr. definitely deserves to be peppered with targets. Looking at the depth chart, Marvin Harrison Jr. should at least have a 25+% target share, which is pretty high for a rookie, as his really only main competition for targets is tight end Trey McBride, who is an elite tight end in his own right, but should probably not be the number 1 target with MHJ there in town. So between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, they'll probably have over 50% of the total targets, which makes sense as Michael Wilson, their wide receiver 2, is relatively raw and unproven and going into his second year, and Greg Dortch is a career slot receiver who has never demanded a high target share. So you should expect big things from Marvin Harrison Jr. as soon as this year. So, where does heralded wide receiver prospect Marvin Harrison Jr. land in my Dynasty wide receiver rankings initially? Without ever playing a snap, I'd consider him 5th overall. Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb are in their own elite tier in my opinion, followed by Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 2nd tier. But I believe that Marvin Harrison Jr. is in his own tier at number 5 overall. He is just so elite at everything he does. There's really no weakness to his game whatsoever. He plays the most challenging position at receiver in the X role, while also having the versatility to play any of the positions. And it's just incredible that a wide receiver in college was able to beat about a 17% double coverage rate. That's really unheard of, and just further cements him as a legendary prospect who is destined for NFL greatness. So, as I said earlier, Marvin Harrison Jr. I consider to be in his own tier, the 3rd tier, at 5th overall. Just below him in tier 4 are Garrett Wilson and Puka Nacua. Garrett Wilson is an elite receiver that's been hampered by horrific quarterback play the past couple of years. He projects to have Aaron Rodgers back, so assuming Aaron Rodgers can get him the ball, which I don't think will be an issue, he definitely has a chance to jump up there in the same tier as Marvin Harrison, as does Puka Nacua, who this past year broke the rookie reception and receiving yards record, and is an incredible talent in a great scheme with a great quarterback in Matt Stafford. Just below that, in Tier 5, I have Malik Nabers and A.J. Brown by themselves. Malik Nabers is also a fantastic prospect this year. I just doubt his ability to win as much on the outside in the X role, whereas Marvin Harrison Jr., I have no qualms about him in any role. A.J. Brown would also be a little bit higher on this list, but he's 27 years old, and he just has less years left than some of these other guys, while also probably producing similar numbers, but still an elite talent nonetheless. Looking at Superflex rookie ADP derived from late May of this year, it's looking as though Marvin Harrison Jr. is the 101 over Caleb Williams and Malik Nabers this year. This is a bit surprising, as even though Marvin Harrison Jr. is a legendary prospect, Caleb Williams is going into a fantastic situation and is a fantastic prospect himself, and quarterback is generally regarded as the most important position in fantasy. So when considering whether you should take Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall, in my opinion, I would still take Caleb Williams, but if you are set at quarterback and no one is going to trade down with you to 2, you are fine taking Marvin Harrison Jr. there. In a 12-team format, however, I would definitely wait to take Marvin Harrison until pick 2, just because Caleb Williams is going into a fantastic situation as an elite quarterback prospect himself, and due to positional scarcity in 12-team leagues, not everyone can roster 3 starting quarterbacks at a time, which is a necessity for an optimal starting lineup. But Marvin Harrison Jr. going at pick 2 is not a slight in any way, shape, or form. And this is why Marvin Harrison Jr. is my Dynasty wide receiver 5 despite having never played a snap in the National Football League. This concludes Marvin Harrison Jr.'s prospect profile. Up next is Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU who went to the Giants at 6th overall. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do you disagree with anything? Please let me know in the comment section. Thank you and have a good day.